stream, like interactive. So I'll give it over to Mr. Constantino.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I understand there are some questions for me. I play the violin as well. Oh, I see Maria. Hi, Maria. I also play with the symphony. I've been with the symphony since 1990. So that makes it 30 years I've been with them. I've been a music director at the Mani Mozart for the past 6 years. But previously, before we merged with Mani Mozart, we were known as San Diego Young Artists. And I was with them for a good maybe 8 years. So being in the youth orchestra, I'm probably 15, 15 years or so. And teaching wise, I have a private studio that I've been teaching for the past, I would say 30 years as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So make sure to type any questions you have for Mr. Constantino in the chat. But we'll start with a student submitted question. What does the workday look like for a symphony musician? How often do you perform? And how much would you say you practice outside of rehearsal?
It depends, I guess. Musicians we're treated sort of like athletes in a way that we don't really work from 9 to 5. We only have stamina for a certain number of hours of straight playing. Usually a typical week with the symphony would involve 7 to 9 services. 9 services are usually 2.5 hours, anywhere from 2 hours to 3 hours. So I would say about 24, 27 hours a week, which is not even a 40-hour work week. And performances are usually, that's including the performances. So usually 5 rehearsals or 4 rehearsals and 3 performances, or two performances consisting of anything under 2.5 hours. All musicians in the San Diego Symphony, we all belong to a union. So everything is very controlled time-wise. We start right at 10 and we end right at 10, whether we're still playing. Our proctor goes, stop, and we all stop and pack up and go home. But that's a typical life that we have. Rehearsal on Tuesday, double rehearsal on Wednesday, double rehearsal on Thursday, performance Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And like for the rehearsals themselves, since you have a lot of experience in working with youth symphony as well, would you say there's like a significant difference between rehearsals in professional symphonies and like youth symphonies like MMYO?
I think for me, I've seen enough in rehearsals how various conductors, certainly various colleagues from the past 30 years have come and go. And I would say I've learned enough how to respect each other. And we know the kind of conductors that we like, the conductors that respect our time and respect our efforts. And I would say, of course, the difference, we were dealing with professional musicians, and that they know their parts, they come in, they have their notes, they have everything there, and the conductor's job is just to put things together, give us his view or interpretation of what he wants, the tempos, and that would make things a lot easier for rehearsals. We would hardly look for notes, although some of us, and I would be guilty with that too, that sometimes in the first rehearsal, I'm still looking for notes. But a lot of these pieces for the past 30 some years, I've played over and over and over. So it's just, relearning it and getting yourself familiar after you hear maybe the first run through, you already know, I remember this. And things kind of go in line again. So the respect that we give each other, and knowing that you're a team, if you're part of the first violin, second violin, and you don't want to be the only one looking for notes. Well, every other people around you are just smoking, you know. So you want to do your part. You after the first rehearsal, you get home and then you look at the critical parts of the music and you do and you want to be you want to contribute. But I think as a director, I pretty much treat the students in the same, you know, level of respect that I expect them to know the music. And I don't expect for them to know all the music, but to at least to do their homework and knowing their parts. And so, and I think they see that in my dedication with the music and my preparation. It's been a pleasant experience. And I think after 30 years, it's sort of the way how I approach my teaching with the same respect, one-on-one. And I still have the same energy, the same interests, the same, you know, it's one of those things that I feel very fortunate to be doing this as a living because it's something that we do because we love it. You know, there's not many professions that you could really say, I'm making a living because I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. And so for the past so many years, I've always been, my passion for it hasn't wavered. And when I feel that it's gone, my interest starts to wane, then I would maybe retire. Yeah.
I think we have a question from Gabby in the chat. She asks, how many pieces does the orchestra work on at a time? And for how long do you run a piece before moving on?
Well, we usually have in a program, Gabby, you're talking about a regular symphony concert, right? Of course, you usually have three pieces, either the overture, a concerto, the middle piece, and of course a symphonic or an end piece. And uh, we usually have a schedule that's worked out for us. If it's the first day, we work in the symphony. The second day, we have everything like Beethoven's Fifth, and then overture, piano concerto, Beethoven's Fifth, and then the afternoon, all piano concerto, and things like that. So you at least know that you have time to prepare for the next rehearsal. But some of them are very easy. Some of them, because you've played it so many times, all you need to do is just learn what the conductor wants, how it's articulated, the tempos. But some of them are very, very difficult, from the modern pieces to some of the Mahler pieces, which is, you know, I haven't played all of them, but I played some of them multiple times, but it still doesn't sit well in the fingers. So it's a constant, you know, battle to get it right. But I would say three pieces. But of course, you have operas where we have 4-hour operas, and we once did a very long opera that you have to come back the next day. It's one of those backbreaking playing for constantly, and I'm not that fond of because I don't know how long the opera is. I usually look, okay, we're doing so and so. Okay, there's only 2 hours and 58 minutes. Okay, I could live with that. But if it's like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, it becomes you better prepare yourself.
Yeah, and Gabby asks, you have multiple sets that are worked on together.
Multiple sets?
Yeah. Maybe Gabby.
If I can clarify, yeah, it's just like say it like one concert set would be like a specific 3 pieces. Would you ever have like another set, which is a different 3 pieces that you'd be working on at the same time?
Yeah, of course. Depending on the schedule, sometimes we would have a masterwork series, which includes either the 2 performances in the weekend or 3 performances, and on top of that, we would have like a family concert. Like we play in the morning. That we bus children from all whatever San Diego Unified schools, and they come for a 45-minute performance in the morning, and we usually have 2 of them, and or sometimes we have a Broadway or not, I shouldn't say Broadway, like more like a pops, like a one night of a pops on Friday or something like that, or even Thursday. So it could be multiple music that we're preparing. But again, we are in our contract, we're limited to 9 services, and they can't do any more than that. They could certainly do less. We like that, but if it's more, then they have to put things together in that short amount of time.
Thank you so much. Esther asked, what percentage of musicians in the symphony have had music education at the conservatory level? And do you think that conservatory degrees are a requirement for auditioning or getting placed in professional symphonies?
You know, if 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 I'm not mistaken, I would say 100% are from graduated in music, and conservatory, not necessarily conservatory. Is very interesting at this particular level, because I've sat on many auditions. I've looked at their resumes, and a lot of them are, I don't want to say we give preference. I shouldn't say a preference, but we give them an extra ear when we see, oh, graduate from Juilliard, Curtis, USC, or Eastman, this and that. And then when you come across contestants who are from Azusa University or something, maybe like a school that's not well known for music. Not that we won't care about them, but they'll still have their time if it's 5 minutes. And some of them travel from out of the country just to play for 5 minutes and be judged. And but it's the bottom line is how they play. Auditions are given. Well, the audition materials have gotten longer and longer, and in various composers, from Mozart, Brahms, Beethoven, Strauss, all these. And the idea is for the committee to be able to hear each composer in the person's playing. And there are some contestants would come in and they play the same way as they play Bach to Brahms to, there's no change. So that's immediately eliminated. And but if they could convince us that they know this style of music, then they advance to the semifinals or so.
Yeah. And along while we're talking about auditions, a student asked, how do you deal with or subside the anxiety that comes with an audition or at a concert?
You don't. I think as a performer, you constantly should be excited. Well, of course, you have to be prepared. The bottom line is you have to be prepared. And when you know what you're doing, you know I'm going to go out there in a month, and I want to make sure my schedule is so. And then a week before that, I'm ready. Okay, and you should be. I don't want to say stress-free, but you know that you've done all the preparation that you can, and you approach it the best you can. And yes, nervousness is, I think, will always be part of that. But I would say the nervousness is not really like, I mean, what's the worst that would happen? But just the excitement of being out there and playing and showing what you have. They like it, fine. If they don't like it, fine. But I love it, so that's the important part.
Yeah. I know we're backtracking a bit, but could you maybe talk about your background and experience with music and how you got into conducting and down the teaching path?
Well, my father is a frustrated violinist, and I'm from the Philippines, and my father played. He enjoyed the instrument so much. He loved it. He knows all the pieces, and it's always in the air in our house. I always hear it, and so I grew up with that. And of course, back then, he wasn't able to continue either because of, the Second World War, and he ended up going into business, but he remained in love with classical music, all forms of classical music, which suddenly, of course, I've gotten pulled into it, and found out that I could do something. And by the time I was 12, I was getting a lot of awards in competitions, and when I was 15 years old, I was the youngest player in the professional orchestra in the Philippines, the official Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra. And of course, I feeling that I'm good and I could do all these things, and set my sights for bigger things. And usually at that point, you could say to yourself, I want to be a soloist. I want to be this. I want to be that. And I auditioned here in the States, and was able to get a full scholarship in Philadelphia. And but after that, the reality changed. Of course, you're here in a different country, different culture, different. You have to adapt. You have to learn, and realizing how difficult it is for concert artists. It's not a glamorous life, because I meet and see all these artists that come to us. It's work. It's work for them. I have a wonderful friend, also a concert pianist who became very popular in Europe, and well, her life didn't turn out very well. She got a divorce, and now she's responsible for raising her son, and she hates performing, but she has to perform to earn. And we had a long dinner when she was one of our soloists, and I just felt sad that she didn't enjoy that life as a soloist. And this was a long time ago, and of course, being with the symphony already, I've discounted that part of wanting to be a soloist. I don't want to be away from my house for 8 months out of the year and concertizing, and I so yeah. And conducting is always something that I feel. Any music that I've done, I always feel that things could be better. I think that's the part about being a teacher, being a performer, being an artist, that you're never satisfied with what you did. There's always something, and you listen to your own recording and you say, I should have made that note longer. I should have done that, and you always criticize yourself, and that's I think that's just true for everyone, and then they continue to improve. But conducting is a sometimes I don't like the conductor's tempo, but I think the conducting stems from having a very bad rhythm when I was in college. I went into as I mentioned, I got to my scholarship, and I could play all these concertos, like. But I didn't know that I had really terrible rhythm. We were supposed to be part of a chamber group from trios to string quartet, and every semester, this went 3 semesters by, nobody would play with me. And I would always ask them, hey, you need another violinist? No, we're full. And so and finally someone said, no one wants to play with you because your rhythm sucks, and I really took a look at the mirror and recorded myself. And at that point, it was still one of those little cassette players, and tapping with my playing. And sure enough, it was really bad. It was really, and so I got myself a small metronome. And being a student, that's the only thing I could afford. Is one of those clip-on that you clip on a music stand. And so I started to play. I couldn't hear it. And so what I did, I clipped that metronome on my earlobe. And that was going like this. And I stuck with it for a good year. and fix my rhythm. I stayed true to the metronome. Usually students like at your age, you know, sometimes we don't use metronome. You would say, I don't need metronome. I'm good. Right, Maria? Uh, but it's really an important tool. And I always tell everyone, I have metronome here. I have two metronomes just in case one dies, whatever. I have one in my case. I have the phone, but it's so essential in what we do. And I found out that rhythmically I became very accurate and internally as well, which in turn improved my playing tremendously, improved my teaching, improve the way how I look at music, improve everything, and that goes to putting an orchestra together, and 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 for the kids to follow, not a metronome, but hopefully something that they can express with. So that is a nice joy to have, that you're in complete control of time and having everyone play with you in the same manner.
Thank you. Um, and I have another question in the chat from Tony, and he asks, how many years of experience do you think is the minimum for the orchestra? So maybe how many years of experience is needed to start playing in an orchestra or playing with other people?
Professional orchestra,
Um, he
or
does, if Tony could specify in the chat, if not, I think he might be referring to a student orchestra.
well, of course, as you go, I mean, through your years, you would have your training either in a youth orchestra, either in middle school to high school to college. And I've known some of my colleagues who, after college, they immediately get a job with us. And I've known people who spend so many years trying to win a job, and it's very difficult. In my years of auditioning, I won two, and that is a good ratio.
Yeah.
But for some, you know, it's like I remember going into auditions, going from city to city, from Pittsburgh, because I was living in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, even drove to St. Louis, and you see the same people. You see the same people there. You know, hey, how you doing? All right, see you in Baltimore. Okay, see you there. So you go there, you see each other again, chat a little bit, and then you audition. If you advance and you get the job, great. You know, then the others go on. But that's sort of the life of auditioning for a major orchestra, and it's very, very tough. It's not. It's the best person wins that day, not the best person, the best player. You know, the best person. It depends on the forces that sometimes you guys know, when sometimes when you pick up your instrument, it's like, wow, I could play all day. I sound so good. And there's sometimes I was like, this is really bad, you know, that you just don't want to play. And there are those days, if those align together, that during audition, that you could, everything is just whatever you ate, however, how many hours you slept, and whatever, everything works great, and you could have a great day and win a job. But I'm not saying that that's the only criteria of winning a job. You have to know exactly, of course, all these things. But I think I went offline of what's your actual question?
I think he asked how many years is the minimum. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the minimum. There's no really minimum, but knowing that you went through your life in a youth orchestra, going to middle school, high school, college, and then from there, you know, if they like you, a lot of the learning, of course, are in the job. and and a lot of them are very smart. I see a lot of young kids who we just hired someone 2 years ago, who just fresh out of Juilliard, just
Oh,
just like that. And but he's very smart. He's careful, and he fit right in with us, and I like him a lot, and we're trying to make him stay, because some of the good ones sometimes they come here and then they stay for 2 years and then they move on. They move
yeah.
on to they don't realize what a great place San Diego is.
Yeah.
Yes, Chicago, Boston, LA, they could pay whatever, 30% more than what we do. But the quality of life and the quality of people are very different from San Diego. I can't think of any other place that I could have raised my kids, and so yeah, no minimum.
Yeah. And like in your example, the person you're talking about got a job like right after they graduated, but would you say that job opportunities are harder to get as a
It,
musician or right out of
it's
college?
harder. It's harder now. You have to realize, uh, you guys probably started Suzuki, right?
Um, for the most part, yes.
For the
Yeah.
most part, I think back in the 50s, I think most of the kids who are still in school, in universities or conservatories, they were already scouted like athletes. And they were given contracts already before they graduated by some of these orchestras. And then Mr. Suzuki comes in and starts teaching, all these, you know, thousands of kids, and now the generation. So now the interest for this what we do, the number of people is incredible. When I auditioned back in 1990, I think there was 130 people, um, that was invited, and they took three.
Oh,
Um, and now we get applications of up to 300, and we would only invite those people, like what I said, oh, from Juilliard, we need to invite,
yeah.
and so the chances are they have to either start, maybe going back to that question earlier. A lot of times, some of these people, they would start on regional orchestras, let's say like a Fresno or Bakersfield or Modesto symphony that goes per service, that they only have so many concerts. And then they would go up to a third rate orchestra, maybe like a Phoenix or something like that. And then hopefully get to move up to a second rate, then to a first rate if they can. Yeah,
Oh, thank you so much.
sure.
Tony mentioned in the chat that he's gonna go buy a metronome.
Make sure it's a loud one. Make sure it's a
Yeah.
loud one.
And Esther asks, as a conductor and a teacher, how do you approach getting across the importance of musicality in playing to your students?
I approach music as at the level, of course. I think at any level, you could teach the kids anything that they could relate in their lives, and anything that, even a two-bar phrase or a certain passage that you could tell them how this particular music would go. They may not know how to really execute it, but at least they would a passage, let's say, that repeats three times. What do? You could relate that to asking your parents for something, asking them the second time a little louder, the third time with more intent, you know, and for them to understand, okay, okay, and they start, and hopefully you've sort of planted some interest in how music is, and that may not be the composer's preference, but it's a direction of music that keeps the performer interested in making, for them to be creative. So a lot of these things, depending on the stages of kids that you work with, and I feel very fortunate to have worked and still be working with a lot of really talented kids that I could just, it becomes very enjoyable. That's part of about teaching as well, is that you could just kind of sit back and guide them, instead of the hard job of, I don't teach beginners. So because I think that takes a special patience and effort. I do have a lot of patience, but I don't want to say I don't have patience for beginners, but it's I need to do it because of my interests as well. So if I'm interested in doing what I'm doing, I'm more effective with that. So
Yeah. Um, and the Diana asked in the chat, what can I do with a music degree besides playing in a symphony?
well, playing in a symphony, depending on again the level of orchestra that you're playing with, a music degree, you could teach in university. I was interim music director at Oregon State University, and I didn't like it at all. And my office is next to a wind instructor, clarinet, and one time I saw him in his office, and he just looks like that's what he's been doing for the past 30 years. And I didn't want to be like that. I needed to play and play with better people so I could get better. And that's why I started to audition. But what was the question again?
She said, what can you do with a music degree besides
Oh,
playing?
yeah. Well, if you like the education part, you could teach. A lot of those things are very very helpful. I was also a professor at San Diego State. I had an office there that I never saw because I don't want to go there and park. So everyone was coming to my studio, but I didn't like all the things to go, all the official things, the departments, all that stuff. So I said I'd rather do things on my own. But music degrees are always good. It's something that you could hang on the wall, I guess.
Yeah, I think I always grew up with the notion that like a music career pathway would split into just performance or just education. But since
Not
you're,
necessarily.
yeah,
No, not necessarily. No one knows how one would be uh, good as an educator.
yeah,
I've known many people who are really exceptional performers, exceptional musicians, the knowledge of what they know, their wit, the quickness, suggestions, all these things, but they couldn't teach.
yeah,
Just, I don't know, just the whole thing about it. And I've known people who can't play, but who are really good teachers that really inspire. I try to be in the middle, that I'm good enough to be part of a good ensemble, or could play with the best of them, and still be able to guide students the correct way. And
yeah.
I've been successful with that.
Yeah. And do you think that like being a teacher and being a conductor has hindered your progress as a musician or made it like supplemented it even more?
Oh, supplement, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything that I take in, either suggestions of conductors or suggestions of my colleagues, I take that in and look at. Of course, you don't usually always agree, but to good comments, you would take it in. I remember it, and I would apply that with my own teaching, and you discover other things with that. There's being a good teacher has a lot to do with exploring. and your flexibility in finding ways how to teach individuals. There are teachers who teach one way. This is how I do it. You do it this way. Boom, boom, boom. And I try to know the student. It's like having windows. Uh, not all of those windows are open, but finding the right window to get in. And once you do, it's actually wonderful to see, and for especially when they're in their middle school, and for them to see them grow as a wonderful citizen in our community. It's really great.
And like just for students who are looking around for new teachers, do you have like any advice on how finding a teacher that's right for you if you don't have that like personal connection with them yet?
Well, I think finding a good teacher is you could always have a trial lesson with them. Any teacher should be able to do that. A lot of teachers probably, there's a lot of good teachers, and different layers, different levels of how they teach. And yeah, that's very, very difficult question, and it also depends with loyalty. Sometimes we don't want to move from a teacher to a new teacher. Sometimes the student itself, he or she feels that they need to move to someone better, and or the parents, want their kids to win competitions. They go to find a better teacher, and so it's very difficult to find that, and just ask around, word of mouth, and see what accomplishments of that teacher is, what the product, where the students are, and hopefully you'll find a good match and that you could relate with.
Yeah. And I know this is kind of a controversial topic in like music education, but what's your opinion on like parental involvement, or how far should a parent be involved with their child's music path?
Oh boy. There are times that I know the parents' tendencies that I would not accept their children as students, just because of that. And I think it's you go by case. In general, parents only mean only the best for their children, and they suggest, they want you to do it because they feel it's a and I've experienced this because my father is the same. Everything that he wanted for me is for my own good, even though I didn't feel that my generation, it was a proper way of doing things. So it's a very difficult answer. And sometimes the students don't really care, but the parents are the ones. And I think a teacher would know that. I usually interview them, and I would ask the student, I would ask the parents, and to find out where that interest is. If the student is not really interested and it's only the parents, it won't be a good fit. Or I would get a call from, or an email saying, oh, I heard your student so and so this and that, and I want my daughter to study with you, and maybe for knowing what reason, either to win competitions, and I don't do that. I don't want people to think that's the only way to advance. So yeah, it's a very tough question, because I believe in parents' guidance very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that was a bit of a heavy question.
No.
Sophia asked in the chat, do you have a favorite style, composer, or piece of music?
I love it all. It depends on maybe what I ate that morning. I don't know. Sometimes I'm into loud music, and sometimes I'm into just stress-free music, from classical to Baroque, and to the big romantic. I've also been enjoying a lot of 20th century and modern music, because I feel that's sort of where the direction is, where everyone's going. I believe like there was three seasons ago, LA Phil did not program any Beethoven in their season, and they had a lot of modern music, new music commissioned or this and that. And you look at a lot of these composers. Maybe that's how Brahms started, or Beethoven at that time. That suddenly 50 years after that, they suddenly, we love their music. But there's a lot of really good modern music, for the violin, for piano, for orchestra, and we certainly play at the symphony a lot of new music, either written in the past 5-10 years. So I've been enjoying that too.
Thank you. And Tony asks, if you could choose a different instrument, what would you choose?
Trumpet.
Trumpet.
Yeah. I saw this movie. It's called Young Man with a Horn, with Kirk Douglas. This is back in the 50s. But I just enjoy that movie so much. The will of this trumpet player wanting to. It's a jazz, just wanting to hit that whatever high C, and just going through life. It's still very vivid in my mind. And I've always wanted to be able to at least play something. But yeah, I play a little viola. I always like the cello. I play the piano as well. Not good, but yeah. But I think trumpet is something I've never touched in a way, or never learned. But so I'll leave it at
I'm sure a lot of the trumpet players right now are very happy.
that.
Um, a student pre-submitted a question that asks, does being a professional musician pay enough to be financially stable?
Ah, well, yes. Be like, well, let's say San Diego Symphony. It is a full-time job. We work about 42 weeks, or maybe 44 weeks out of the year. And I'm able to buy my house. 3 more years, it's all paid off. Yay. And I'm able to send 2 kids to college. One finished molecular biology at UCSD, and the other one is junior at Berkeley. So yes, there's a lot of opportunities. Besides the symphony, of course, I feel very fortunate because I have my teaching. I also have many Mozart Youth Orchestra. But I'm not taking all those tasks because of the money. I'm taking those tasks because I enjoy it. It's what who I am, and it's what keeps me driven. And to think, if I'm tired of it, I'm in a way, I'm looking forward to retirement, but at the same time, I'm not ready, because there's so many other things I want to do and people to help. I've taken a very young student, wonderful student, and she's 8 years old, and I'm like, wait a minute, that means by the time she gets to college, that's 9 years from now. And I don't want to just pass her off to another person before she leaves. So it's one of those things that you care about the people you help. And yes, uh, you I would say yes, it's a good living.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know, like you mentioned that you were playing in a professional symphony by the age of 15. Like, I'm 15 now. That sounds very like.
Well, you have to understand, in the Philippines, we only had one major orchestra. There are community orchestras. There are some pickup orchestras here and there. But I auditioned and they gave me the job. I was still in high school. And it was nice because suddenly my high school gave me preference to skip my morning classes because, you know, I'm a member of the National Orchestra. And that certainly started my experience really early.
Yeah.
And pushed me to what I'm doing now. Yeah, but that's an exception because it's from a third world country, and I doubt that a union musician would be hired at 15 here.
Yeah, but do you think, I know, like another controversial topic maybe is like talent versus like do you think that starting very early and like immediate talent from starting very early is more promising for a future career than maybe like starting later in life or even as an adult?
You know, yes and no. I think it's really important that one be really smart about where they're headed, about being very smart about their choices. I always tell my students that you need to really be smart to play this instrument. It doesn't mean you have the fastest fingers, the biggest sound, that you'll make it out there. You need to know your patience. You need to know when, you know. So a lot of those things have, I attributed that to being successful by being smart and accepting what's in front of me and making the best of it. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Another question was, when conducting a piece, do you try to envision what the composer had in mind, or do you like to add your own interpretive elements?
I think your own as an artist, as a conductor, or even the pieces that you guys are doing. Yes, you could listen to YouTube recordings, which is so great. I've never had that when I was your age, because you could learn so many things. But I think one has to understand the music that you're doing, whether you're doing a Mozart symphony, or playing a Mozart quartet or even concerto, knowing that it's one of those non-aggressive pieces that you could just enjoy. Beautiful melody, not overdone. Everything is right, and you get to a Brahms that's heavier. So there are those things that you express to the youth orchestra on how to approach some of these pieces, and then you add your own interpretation. There are times where normal way is to slow down or to speed up here, and you know, you may decide, I don't think so. I think it's just straight, and then I'll just end it with a bang, boom. And so suddenly it's a fresh way of looking at things, and sometimes I've gotten comments from some of my colleagues who are parents of some of the kids that, hey, I like that thing that you didn't because a lot of people, they just milk that so much, everything just slows down. Yeah. So it's one of those things that you add your own way of interpretation, but at the same time, you have to know the music that you're playing. From last year, we were doing Scheherazade, which we never finished, of course, because of COVID-19. And I'm doing that again. And of course, there's just the whole, you know, Scheherazade fantasy, the Middle Eastern melodies, Rimsky-Korsakov, and then going to maybe a Beethoven overture. So it's that different, and you can tell the kids sometimes their interest. They sit up Scheherazade, Beethoven, they go like this, you know. But it's just a knowledge that you have to tell them how beautiful all these music are. So.
Thank you so much. We're nearing the end of this call, so if anyone has any like final questions, please feel free to ask. Nathan says, "I love Mr. C" in the chat.
Hey, Nathan.
A question that I had was a lot of students, including myself, find music theory really uninspiring. So what's your thoughts on music theory, and do you think that students should incorporate it in their learning?
Well, you guys do CM,
Yes.
most of it. I think music theory is an essential part, especially for a conductor. But as a player, I think it's very important to at least know the basic guidelines of what you're doing, knowing the keys, knowing the time signature, knowing all of these accidentals. It adds to your interpretation. But you know, when you get to the chord progressions, so to all these things, that becomes, you know, I'm not good at that. I could transpose, I could read, I could find root chords, all that stuff, but I'm not. Uh, I don't know it all. So to me, it wasn't that essential because I cared more about my violin and the music that's in front of me and the interpretation, and everything that came with the conducting was that I needed more about the theory, and so that's where I learned more about um, all these different essentials of theory. Hey, Sean.
Thank you so much. I think, would you have any recommendations for students who would want to get started in conducting at an earlier age?
Uh, fix your metronome, fix your rhythm. Everyone has rhythm issues. No one. Yes, I think everyone has. There's some who have internal rhythm that are really good, but there are still basic knowledge of how rhythm functions. That is very important. It's very essential. And one thing that I'm so proud about the San Diego Symphony is that everyone that we audition, just imagine we are all sitting in the orchestra section, and we could all be sitting in various rows, and you have, I could see my colleagues, they have their folders, and and the first person who plays, the first thing we do is either tap our hands or fingers or our foot, and if that person is able to keep a rhythm, and then we forget everything else and start enjoying their interpretation of the said pieces that are given to them. But if they're not able to hold their rhythm, then next. So it's very important that rhythm is the root of what we do in music. And I always tell the students, it's like it's like talking, and for you to be understood, you have to articulate, you have to enunciate, you have to know that what you're saying is understood. Pronunciation is very important as well, and of course the pacing of how you talk is very important. So with the proper rhythm, I guarantee everyone, all of you, with the proper rhythm, you will walk taller, you will play better, and you will play more musical than anything. I know I have a feeling, it's like in my youth orchestra, that there are some kids who are afraid of me just because of the rhythm. They're afraid that I'm going to pick on them, and but it's just being honest for them to know their weakness so they can improve on it. I see them. I walk in the hallway. They part like a Red Sea. They you know, right, Nathan? Um, um, it's that would be the one of the best advice I could give everyone is to improve your rhythm, and that takes metronome, practice, patience, and to know that is your weakness, and accept it, embrace it, improve on it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Constantino.
You're welcome.
I don't think we have any more questions. We do have a few more minutes, so
Yeah.
I'll ask another one.
Sure.
I know a lot of the seniors and probably a lot of the people who are in this program don't see music as a full career path, and many are majoring in STEM. Or how do you like suggest keeping music as part of like your life?
Well, the same thing as I would tell my students who graduates to find a school that has music. If Because I know they enjoy it that much that they will always make it a part of their lives, and it's really important. It's sort of an escape for everything that the things that we do. You find your own space, and you could play and enjoy. It doesn't matter what other people say, but as long as you enjoy your music, you enjoy your playing, and that has to, you always have to keep that alive. Finding a university or a college that would offer at least some kind of a program, even teaching assistant lessons, this and that, I think would be good. And sometimes they get inspired and they double major. And even my daughter, she's very good. She plays the cello. And when she said she's going to Berkeley, I said, Berkeley's not really known for their music, um, but um, uh, but it's a very good for journalism. And but she enjoyed it so much. She's now assistant principal in the cello section, and she gets a scholarship in her cello lessons with one of the best teachers in the Bay Area, Jonathan Coe. And I told him he always beats my student every time we go into the finals, because I have students who would win here, and then they go to the state finals, and guess what? Jonathan Coe's student would beat. And but he's such a nice guy, very, very nice, and my daughter's enjoying it very much. So at least, whatever she wants to do, she could go in both directions, or maybe to do both if she can. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Constantino.
You're welcome.
I had a great time talking to you and hearing what you had to say. We're all so grateful for your input, and thank you so much for being here.
Of course. And like what I said, when we all get back to normal, I'd love to visit you guys and help out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. I'm free to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.